This episode is proudly brought to you by the Afrocentric Group, Southern Africa's most diversified healthcare group, building a winning health offering. Hello and welcome to another edition of AI Impact Talk with me, Tembekile Mkhototo. And today we're looking at basically venture building as well as enterprises. And we've got an expert on the subject matter today. We're joined by none other than Alex Bruyn. He is the founder and CEO of Let'sCreate. Alex, welcome to AI Impact Talk. Really good to have you with us. Let's start with the basics, right? Before we go into the broader conversation, and just define for us or help us to break down the concept of venture building.
Yeah, sure. Thanks for having me to start off. So just to kind of explain what venture building is, let's maybe just define the other two sides of it. So venture capital, which everyone is quite used to, and a lot of startups chase, which is betting purely capital on as many startups as possible and hoping that one of them are gonna outperform. And then you get these concepts of accelerators or incubators, where it's a lot more of environmental or softer support that they give startups, office space, printing equipment, sub-mentor, chip, etc. Where we find ourselves, what venture building is we physically build multiple startups at the same time. So we physically get involved, we deploy resources to sit with either the founders externally or internally, and we build those ventures individually. So it's like running 10 startups at the same time. And that's where venture building space in. So we find that the level of success is higher than just taking the bet on a capital basis. And that's where we play. So we purely deploy those resources to build that out. And
when you say you help build the startups, physically help to build them, what does that entail?
So every venture needs something differently, right? So some would need more design skills, some need more commercial skills, some need more sales, some need more physical development, coding. So we deploy resources where that's needed. So every venture takes something differently. But if we had to kind of break it down, we focus on two specific things. Is we do B2B SaaS platforms, specifically in the enterprise level. So we focus on your tier 2 to tier 1 enterprise. So it has to be quite sizable for us. And then we focus on being able to bootstrap ventures. So for us, any resources or problems that we can find or founders that we can find that solve specific problems in that niche, we then sit with them and determine what do they need. They either already have a product, they've got technical skills, or they don't have technical skills, they need design skills, they don't have design skills, and then we deploy teams around them to fill all of those gaps to build that with them. And we bleed with them, we succeed with them, like we really get into the trenches with them.
It sounds like a tall order. A lot of hard work is involved. How and when do you decide on what work to take on?
So maybe just take a step back of where we started and why. So I built a product called Let'sCreate, which is a B2B digital commerce automation platform. And that gave us a lot of scale into the enterprise space. Now, I'm then a serial entrepreneur. I started finding too many problems and I wanted to build too many products. But I realized that I couldn't do all of them. And there's a lot of people out there that might be better at solving specific industry problems that are there. So we built a methodology of how do we take bootstrapping and apply that. So bootstrapping is building platforms out of revenue without the deployment of external capital. How do we do that at scale? By solving all the opportunities we were seeing within the enterprise. So we've got a couple of metrics that we look at. Is someone willing to pay for it? Because if someone's willing to pay for it, it doesn't matter how smart we think we are. The problem is probably not worth solving. Can we scale it globally? So we only back problems that we can incubate here and then take it to our other ventures overseas.
So bigger picture always.
Always this bigger picture. We try to avoid anything that's commoditized. So payments heavily commoditized, heavily locally driven, regulated. We try to avoid instances like that. And fundamentally, someone has to be willing to pay for it. Either committed payment or prepayment, and how do we do those? So those are our criteria. Is it in the B2B space? Can we scale it globally? And is someone willing to pay for it on a committed basis? We then focus, we've got a very big speciality in commerce. So we've done a lot of work in retail commerce, in e-commerce automation. So anything that fits very closely to that, we tend to prefer, just because we know we can get the distribution of the sales that come through to that. But we've gone wide into other industries. I mean, that's we always get the outliers that we focus on. But as long as we focus, is it a problem that we're solving? Can we bootstrap it? Can we take it globally? And is someone willing to pay for it? Then we'll consider how do we build that.
It sounds like a space that is thriving. Has that always been the case from when you started to where you are now?
So I think it's getting easier and easier to build things, or at least to validate whether it's worth building. So historically, it was very hard to get into enterprise. Like, it's even very hard for any startup to have that conversation to validate the problem that they think they're solving. And then in South Africa, the access to capital has always been limited, right? Like VC in South Africa doesn't really exist. Private equity a bit more, but the VC that we see overseas hasn't really existed in South Africa. So the barriers to entry has been quite hard, at least through our years of scaling up. It's becoming a lot easier to build ventures because the breakdown of the ability to build something is becoming less, right? So now it's not anymore about can I build it, it's about should I build it. Like with AI these days, you can build anything. And the what we look at is like, if I can build anything, the barrier of entry of anyone reduces, but it doesn't negate the need of understanding, should I build it? Is someone willing to pay for it? And am I solving the right problem? So it's a lot easier now to get into it, but to get into it the correct way is becoming so much more critical to get right. And that's where we're focusing. We're saying that anyone can pick up Claude Code or Cursor tomorrow and start building something. Is it being applied in the right way, commercialized in the right way? Will it scale? Will it do all these things, which we believe is the more important part for the next decade to get right? And that's where we're focusing. So it's a lot easier for us to do it. What COVID's also given us is the focus that South African tech or any emerging technology is not necessarily inferior to the likes of the US technology.
Right.
So it's put us all on the same playing field, which now we're getting recognized and saying, okay, what we're building, or any emerging market is as of quality that you would get overseas.
And just on that, sorry, Alex, how have you, as a group of South Africans in particular, been able to get that right, convincing even the people who perhaps may have the funding that just because it comes from Johannesburg, it's not necessarily inferior to what's available in the US, the UK, or any other part of the world?
So when we started, I realized that I was a young entrepreneur, didn't really have any credibility behind me. I was very conscious about selecting my business partners and the first clients that I had. So at that time, my one business partner is a guy called Richard Crichton. He ran Honeywell for 10 years. Another one is Craig Holmes. He ran partner ecosystems for IBM for a long time. Greg Venter sold an insurance company to Hollard for a good fortune.
A pretty penny.
and what I had to do, so I did two things. At the time when we started, everyone was focusing on Google, the upcoming income of AWS into the country. No one was really focusing on IBM. I went to IBM and I knocked on their door until they listened, and focused on getting recognized globally in that space. So we won 2 awards with IBM. That's how we met Craig, and that's how we met it. And the credibility of my partners around me in the industry gave me a lot of assistance in building that merit. We've now built a nice client base with very reputable businesses in South Africa and globally, which continue to build our momentum. What we're trying to do now is how do we leverage that momentum to give other founders and other startups the same ability to gain or to get that distribution and that credibility.
And how's AI then helping you to do that better?
So what AI does, and it's interesting, AI is in a very interesting space. So where, for me personally, where AI helps us a lot is the access to knowledge, right? So now the access to knowing something becomes easy. It's the tip of a finger, we can ask any question, right? AI allows us to very rapidly determine the validity of a problem and whether people are willing to pay for that. So now our investment cost to get to a no is is lowered so we can validate that and demonstrate the problem or the solution that we're trying to solve to the problem. So AI has accelerated and reduced the risk of us getting into a venture a lot quicker.
So smarter, faster.
Correct.
Am I right?
Yeah, 100%.
So now that you've got that done, I would imagine it's also made the space, or is making the space, more competitive with the level of interest now in industries like yours.
So I don't necessarily know if it's competitive to us. I think the thing is that it doesn't matter what technology you have to speed the process of building something. If it's not been built for the right reasons or to the right problem, doesn't matter how fast you build it. So what that allows us to do, and this is our focus needs to be on, are we applying the tools we have to the correct problem, correct solution, and versus just building stuff to build. Our encouragement is not that we're not scared of competition. So we want to encourage and give tools to as many founders as possible to do this with or without us. We are very happily to share our methodologies, how we do it, how we approach it. Because the more people that do that, the whole industry will lift and better for all of us. And we've got a bit of a pretty simple model. Is the more content and the more tools we give everyone to be able to build quicker and become self-sustaining entrepreneurs, we can monitor them. And when they become sizable enough and they can match a problem that we have, we can then kind of lean on the industry that we already know and have empowered. If they do it and become better than us, that's better for all of us, right? So we see competition a bit differently. Like, we don't think there's too much competition in the venture builder space, not a zero-sum game. It's not like if we lose, the VCs must win, or VCs must lose, we will win. We believe if we build the industry, everyone can win.
And you mentioned earlier your B2B and is it SAS platforms. Am I pronouncing that correctly? How would you explain that to someone who's going to watch this conversation and has no idea what we're talking about and is hearing about it for the first time, but is actually quite interested in learning more?
Sure. So B2B, you get B2B and B2C. So B2B is business to business, is we build tools to sell to the business that they can use internally in its operations. A B2C is you build platforms and tools that you engage directly with the consumer. So an Uber is a B2C model. A Microsoft Office is a B2B model. So that's a difference between B2B and B2C. The reason why we focus on B2B is that you can get a larger level of distribution a lot quicker. And because we all come from the enterprise space, that's where our networks and relationships are. B2C, because of the attention span of consumers, you have to pay a hell of a lot to get the acquisition and retention, which then becomes a very expensive drive to retain and build that model out. So that's why our focus is on B2B. SaaS is software as a service. We believe that the world is shifting away from buying massive platforms, spending massive capital on installation. Everyone wants to pay per use and for value. So we focus on creating commercial models where if you use us, you pay us. If you don't use us, you don't pay us. And it's a very direct exchange for the value that we're driving.
So pay as you go.
Pay as you go, 100%.
And what excites you currently, given, I'm listening to you speak and I'm just realizing how much ground you've covered.
Yeah.
What excites you about, let's say, the medium and the longer term of where not just your industry is going, but AI and the related developments as a whole?
So what excites me is the ability that AI has given everyone to start playing. Like the playing field has now been leveled to everyone. If you've got a computer and an internet connection, you can start building stuff. And we're seeing unbelievable things come out. So what this technology is going to do, it's going to really break down all the barriers of entry and purely focus on building out the problem-solving part of it. So the nice thing is in industries, so rural industries, emerging industries, which one never had access to technology or had the means to be able to solve their localized problems. Now we're taking away the access to technology that's becoming more freely available. You can build it a lot quicker. And the area-specific or geographic-specific understanding of those problems can be solved by local individuals, which is going to add a lot more value than some entrepreneur sitting across the border trying to solve that specific problem. So the rebalancement of that equality of wealth generation is becoming a lot more free, and that excites me. Like I believe the way that we solve a lot of our problems in South Africa, a lot of problems in emerging countries, is not through governmental programs of giving things out and all of that. It's about teaching people that they can break away from the freedom of not having wealth. And if we can teach more people to build wealth, that solves a lot of problems. And that excites me.
I like that you talk about building wealth. And in South Africa, people are very concerned, for example, because of our socioeconomic situation, about just generating an income going month to month. And given what you do, are there opportunities for that where, yes, you're generating wealth, but also do you need a lot of manpower? And does it speak to being able to respond to that sort of question where not everyone is leading a venture capital operation, but they do want to work in some way in the space?
So specifically as the AI technology evolves, we're probably going to need less and less manpower to build things. But it does give us the freedom to give access to opportunity for more and more individuals. And that's where we're focusing. So we talk about the death of SaaS, which is actually the death of our own industry. We don't believe there's going to be these monolithic platforms that control certain industries.
Wow.
We believe it's going to break down to build specific micro SaaS, so specific programs to solve specific problems. And how do you deploy that at scale to do that? So what we are driving towards, how do we get programs into schools, into universities, into areas that previously didn't have access to distribution and problem solving, and say, look, let's teach you how to build. We've got enough problems. Just show that you can build. And that takes different forms. So certain individuals want to be entrepreneurs, certain individuals can't be entrepreneurs.
Because not everyone can do it, right? Because I read something recently that it takes a special person to commit to entrepreneurship.
It does, man. It's hell of hard. Like, everyone glamorizes entrepreneurship, but it is hard. And the reality is entrepreneurs can't do it without the team around them. So you need individual contributors, you need specialists in industries, you need all of that. And what we're trying to create is a foundation where people can come, highlight their skills, figure out where they want to play, and then pursue ventures in that specific space. So we've got a lot of ventures we're building that need more people to help solve it. I can't solve every problem. I can't run every venture. I'm not the smartest in the room to be able to do that. I think there's many people that are
smartest in this room, I'll tell you that.
Yeah. So I think we've been very blessed to build a foundation that of the success we have, and we want to make sure that it doesn't die with me. I want to create a foundation where others can leverage what we've built to succeed in their own right. Like, I have to find a method that either entrepreneurs we're already backing or future entrepreneurs can leverage what we've done to do it at a bigger scale than we have and reap the individual rewards of that. So that's what's driving us to be able to do that. So there's a lot of opportunities. We're working with some universities, some places, some foundations of how do we just widen this, that people get more access to solving the problems with us. And that's our next drive.
And so that's what you would then need. But I want you to speak to the guys you work with, the ones behind the startups.
Yeah.
If you could give them any advice, for example, you mentioned the fact that SaaS, for example, that's winding down, right? So if you were to advise anyone who is sitting with a startup or considering going in that route, what would the advice be?
So there's two things we always talk about is relentless action. So, like, just take action. You're going to be wrong. You're going to make bad decisions. Like, just take every day, figure out the next action you take to get to that, and validate. Like, make the assumption that you are wrong. So we never look for yeses. We try target no's, and we let the industry drive whether we should continue or not. So what founders need to do is stop focusing on being right, but focus on being successful. I forget now who said that quote, but someone
Let's plagiarize.
Someone smarter than me said that. And we live a lot by that. It's saying that if you're a founder or an individual part of a team, etc., like, you don't what your idea is now doesn't have to be the idea that you succeed with. Be willing to adapt and listen to the market and to go with that. If the market's telling you that this idea is not the right way, then change. Like you have to take that feedback from the market and make those decisions day in, day out. So those are the two things we advise everyone to do.
I'm trying to find a way to phrase this. So, am I right in saying, Alex, that it's not just about finding or identifying a gap or an opportunity, but it's finding one that ultimately, as you were saying, would lead to some sort of sustainable track for the business?
So end of the day, someone's got to pay for it, right? So we can do VC, we can throw money at as many ideas as we want. If the market's not willing to pay for it, it will eventually fail. It doesn't like those are just the ground principles of business. And I'll give you an example. We built a platform called Sherlock, which we believe was going to revolutionize the construction industry. It was going to bring back transparency to construction, where main contractors weren't paying subcontractors and the Group 5 was failing, Basil Reed was failing. We built a product called Sherlock. It won 2 awards in the US. And we came back and we thought we were the smartest guys in the industry. We took it to the industry and no one was willing to pay for it. No one. And we were like, we could see the problem, we could see the value, we could just demonstrate it, we could do all of these things. And eventually one of the big construction businesses turned to us and said, the problem is there's too much money in the mess. So we make too much money about the inefficiencies that we're never going to adopt a platform that's going to highlight that for us. So we're never going to adopt it. So if someone's not willing to pay, it doesn't matter how smart you think you are, it will never succeed. And that's why I always focus on saying you can be absolutely right. But if someone's not willing to pay for it, it doesn't matter.
But it's a tough one, right? Because entrepreneurs are driven by so much passion and the ideas, I think similar to people perhaps in the creative arts, it's personal because it comes something that you build, that you create, you give birth to essentially, and you're hoping that it will fly. So how would you describe the ability then, for example, from your idea, Sherlock, to then bounce back and move on to the next thing once you realize that in this context, this was not going to fly?
So I don't know if it's passion, but I look at it a bit more as ego. So I think a lot of entrepreneurs and myself, I was there, right? So you get fueled by external affirmations and feeling that you have to be the smartest, and your ego gets in the way of the reality of it. Now, eventually life's going to punch you in the face. Like that's, if you're not able to convert your idea into revenue, eventually it will fail, and you will, like, life will be the ultimate equalizer in the way that looks. When that happens, it's up to you to realize, okay, it's not necessarily about that idea, it's about me succeeding or the ideas that are succeeding. Like if you're an entrepreneur and you fail once, tomorrow you're going to stand up and dust off and you'll figure something out, you'll cry a bit and you'll start again. Like if you're an entrepreneur, it's in your blood, like you will figure it out, and then you'll be as passionate about that idea as you were this idea. What we're trying to do is create the view that you don't have to go through that failure to realize that. It doesn't matter who I've spoken to that is successful, they've eventually gone through that realization. And what we're trying to highlight is don't make failure the entry point to success. Is let's create a place where we can talk about it. Say your ego doesn't have to get in the way. You don't always have to be right. It can be someone else's idea. You can build this out. Just focus on solving fundamental good business practices by building good products and adding as most value to the user as possible. And then over time, that will ultimately be successful.
Okay. So as we wind down our conversation, we've been asking everyone throughout the series to answer one question, and that is, what does AI mean to you, both as a professional and just as a person with an interest in how it's evolving?
So it's interesting. I was speaking to my wife about a similar topic a couple of days ago, right? And we were kind of questioning why is it that we're building our businesses and why is it that we're building the wealth that we're building. And for me, it comes down to the basis of freedom. Like I want to have absolute freedom of time, freedom of wealth, freedom of anything across that. And I think AI really gives us the ability to start getting to that point where everyone can drive to the place of freedom. So now, previously everyone was saying, well, I am not educated, so I can't do X. I don't have access to this, so I don't know. What AI gives you, it gives you the ability that if you truly want to, you can figure anything out. You have the access to all the information in the world at your fingertips. And that for me is the start of freedom for anyone. And that's what it means to me, is the foundation of freedom.
Alex Bruyn, great note to leave this conversation. Thank you so much for being on AI Impact Talk.
Thank you very much.
And that was Alex Bruyn, the founder and CEO, by the way, of Let'sCreate, joining us on this edition of AI Impact Talk. I'm back with you again with another edition pretty soon. Stay with us. This episode is proudly brought to you by the Afrocentric Group, Southern Africa's most diversified healthcare group, building a winning health offering.